So further, where are we right now? If we're in agreement that we need a revolution, that we need fundamental transformation in our society, that we need to have an idea of what the new society will look like. We need to have an idea of what the goal is, and that goal needs to be widely shared. It needs to be generalized, not only among the left, but within the movement at large. And we also need an analysis. We need to understand the intersectionality of oppressions. We need to understand the ways in which different spheres of social life reproduce forms of oppression that may have their origins in other systems. We need to understand the way in which capitalism reproduces patriarchy and vice versa, and we therefore need to incorporate that analysis practically, not only in word, but within the way we approach our organizing. We need to incorporate those lessons. So, what can we do now if we are in agreement on that? I would say that we're living in an era in which crises are frequent and many of them unprecedented. If we look at the environmental catastrophe, the looming economic crisis, the fallout from Hurricane Katrina, and the wars in the Middle East being waged by the United States, and we see the popular discontent that is developing within the population. Where is the infrastructure, where is the organization to take advantage of this? Where is the revolutionary left that will direct this frustration and the hope that is emerging from these frustrations, the hope that another society is possible, another world is possible? Where is the organization to take, or organizations to take advantage of that? Well, though they're developing, they're not there yet, and that's one of our primary concerns, is that we can't miss the boat. We're seeing an upsurge of radical activity with the environmental movement. We're seeing an upsurge of radical activity surrounding elections and surrounding opposition to the Bush administration and people seeking changes within the system, but there's no movement that's directing it in a revolutionary direction. And I think that's one of the spaces that a student movement can fill, because I believe that historically students have been capable of raising radical consciousness within the population, proving that alternative forms of organization are possible, and by showing that the system isn't as powerful as a lot of people think. That the fact that one section of society, that youth, students, have the capacity to challenge that, I would say reveals weaknesses that then can be exploited by other sections of society, and that can be used to our advantage. So I wanted to just end with how this connects to with the 40th anniversary of 68, and I've already mentioned, I began with a quote from a member of the March 22nd movement in Paris. And is everyone familiar with the May 68 uprisings? How many people are familiar with that? Okay, so a large amount of people are aware that in May of 68 in Paris, rebellions started within the universities and then spread to the factories and led to the creations of forms of popular democratic rule through councils, and that people began challenging the power of the state. And you can imagine that had this movement had the infrastructure in place prior to that uprising, that had that movement had a vision, meaning it had an idea of the institutions it sought to replace capitalism with, to replace the authoritarian state with, that not only could the gains of that uprising been preserved, but they could have been pushed even further and possibly even led to the revolutionary transformation of French society as a whole. I see no reason why, we can't transplant models, but I see no reason why students, youth within society today couldn't have that same or similar effect. Why is it not foreseeable that if we had a student organization or organizations that had a vision, that had a clear idea of how we were going to build power within the universities, within the community, and how we were going to move beyond the present society and carry out the task of making revolution, that there's no reason that couldn't spread to other sections as well. So, I guess the closing comment would be, let's not miss the boat this time.